All right, we're going to open our agenda for the Architectural Board review for February 7th of 2022. I'll start with our roll call, please.
All right, thank you, Chair Moore. This is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call. So I'll start with Chair Moore.
Here.
Vice Chair Six.
Here.
Board Member Anderson.
Here.
Board Member Black and Noon will be absent today. Board Member Olson. Board Member Olson, it looks like you're muted.
Here.
All right, thank you. And Board Member Witt.
Here.
All right, so we have a quorum today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on to general business. And just in case, Mr. Russell, we have members of the public watching that are waiting for those two items that were rescheduled. Do you want to just speak to that briefly?
Sure.
We don't take any of their time.
And actually, I can jump in, Mr. Russell, just to make an announcement about that. So we had scheduled projects 418 North Milpas and 425 Garden Street. And that was an error on our part in terms of putting them on the agenda. So apologies to both the applicant and members of the public who are tuning in. That item will be postponed indefinitely when the applicant wishes to be scheduled for a hearing. Again, that was our mistake. And so sorry about the confusion. And so, Mr. Chair, when those two items come up, you'll need to open them up, read the project description, open them up, and then postpone indefinitely, just following the kind of trying to make sure that we follow through on kind of what the applicant was intending to do. Again, that was our mistake. So apologies all around. And that item will be renoticed. Both of them will be renoticed when they wish to come, actually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
And mind me, Mr. Chair, item A and B were left over from the last meeting, so we do not need to address those.
Okay. Great. So general business going, we can skip straight to C, which is public comment. So if any member of the public would like to address the board regarding an item not on today's agenda, you can follow the instructions on screen and raise your hand. That will alert staff that you would like to speak. Do we have anybody?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So I see a few members of the public in attendance. If you'd like to speak on an item not on today's agenda, you can raise your hand and I will call on you. All right, so at this time, I don't see any hands raised for general public comment, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. We will close public comment then and go to approval of the minutes for January 24th. We could have those up in front of us.
I move we accept these, once they get put up, accept these minutes as submitted.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Six. Any discussion?
Discussion, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, on item number 2 for 1126 Milpas. The last comment, Board Member Whalen does not support the proposal as he had trouble understanding the proposal and would like to see a proposal that is more understandable and clear.
Okay, so that's an edit to
an edit. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, let's take our vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Chair Moore.
Yes.
Vice Chair Six.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Board Member Olson
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now the consent calendar for January 31st, please.
I move we accept these minutes of the January 31st consent meeting as prepared.
Do we have a second for that?
Second.
I'm gonna pick Miss Anderson as a seconder. Any discussion? No? Let's take a vote.
All right, so we have Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, and then today's minutes for February 7th. If we could just see them really quickly before we make a motion.
And Chair Moore, you would like me to go through them, correct?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so today we had just one item on the consent agenda, 820 Bond Avenue. It was a proposal to install a new cupola to house wireless antennas and equipment. This was continued indefinitely with the comment that the applicant provide alternatives to the secondary tower. Kind of just wanted a new location by either combining it with the original tower in some new composition or provide an alternative that more carefully respects the character of the existing building. That was the only item today. Thank
I
you.
move we accept the minutes from the February 7th consent meeting as presented.
Second.
I can second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Six. Beat you to the punch, Mr. Whalen. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's take a vote.
All right, I'll start with Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to announcements, requests by applicants, future agenda items and appeals. Staff already mentioned that the last two items in our agenda are going to be rescheduled for another time, so they will not be seen today. I also have to recuse myself from item number 4 today. And anybody else with any announcements? No? Okay. So, any subcommittee reports?
No.
No action lately. Okay. All right, we can move on from general business then. And if we are ready, and if we have our applicant available, we can go to item number 1, which is 1717 Thomas Avenue. It's here for final approval. And it's a proposal for 2 new residential units using the AUD program. Project consists of maintaining 2 existing residents on site and the construction of a 3-car garage with 2 second-story units. Unit mix will include 1 2-bedroom unit and 3 1-bedroom units, ranging in size from 437 to 734 square feet, with an average size of 539 square feet. The proposed density on the parcel is 27 dwelling units per acre on a lot with a general plan land use designation of medium-high density, which allows for 15 to 27 dwelling units per acre. Final approval is requested and requires compliance with the plans granted PDA on November 16th of last year. All right, if we could put our motion up from the last round, that'd be helpful, I think.
Chair Moore, to the rest of the
Mhm.
board. It was my mistake. This item was actually last heard on the consent agenda. So these will be the consent minutes from.
I see. I see.
So my apologies.
Okay. So no comments. Okay. Was there a reason that it was sent to the full board for final?
No, that was just my confusion. So
Okay.
no reason.
All right. Okay. Well, let's have our applicant come on and introduce themselves.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Hello there.
Hi there. You could introduce yourself.
I am
and-
Joe. I'm Joe Stewart.
Great.
And my company is Studio 4 Design Group. And as you will note, I am not Rex Ruskoff, who was the original applicant. And he took another job opportunity, so he asked me to close this out for him. So I have done so. And as far as I understand it, we got final design approval or design approval. And as long as we are in conformance with what was approved, I guess we can proceed.
So what you have what's called project design approval,
Yes,
and you're here for final approval, hopefully.
correct.
So we want to just see a brief overview of the project and make sure you have appropriate details,
Yep.
specifications, colors, all of that stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so if we look at the floor plans, you can see that they match. I thought you guys would have already looked at this, so that's, I guess, my fault. The colors are on the elevation sheets. And you just pass those up. As you can see, I had a drafting error and left the stone at chimney on there, but the rest matches the project, the colors. And then you guys should have a copy of the color board.
Not attach the color board. I can pull it up if you would like, Chair Moore. Just give me
Yes, please.
okay, one moment.
Mhm.
Chair Moore,
Yes.
as we're waiting, do we know who the consent reviewer was back in 2020, November?
It should say on the motion. So once we have Mr. Russell back with us, we can ask that.
Okay. There's the color board, and then we'll go back to the minutes. Does not mention, I should say who was in attendance that day. So members present, Wayland, 6 and Black.
Okay.
There we go. Wayland, 6 and Black.
All right. So to the applicant, were these materials presented at the project design approval hearing?
They were not, I was not even part of the project at that point.
Okay. I would suggest, in order to help us evaluate those, if we could see any photos that you have of the existing.
Yes, it's on the last sheet. There's a photo sheet.
Great. Okay, and are these
so
to
every-
remain?
Yeah, so everything would get painted.
Huh.
So that we don't have 3 separate buildings or
Okay.
3 separate color schemes.
Okay, and then I would suggest if you could just run us through the details, that'd be helpful as well.
Okay, so if you just go back, you're gonna have to go, sorry, I don't know exactly which PDF, but probably 15. Probably 3 more. There we go. So there are the window detail, okay. There's the window and door details. They're all we're doing is matching the existing.
Ms. Russell, can you just zoom in on those details so we can get a look? Okay.
And the
Scroll.
next page would have the roof, eave, and the railing details. Also matching. Well, the rails, excuse me, the rails are not matching. The rails are different.
Okay. Okay, is there are there more details below this?
No, that's it. The only other details are for the driveway, just the pavers. They wanted a paver detail, and that's on the site plan.
Okay. And then I saw the exterior lighting and some, it looks like water heater equipment.
Yeah,
Can
that's
you,
the next.
can you point to those locations where those are on the site plan?
If we go to the electrical plan,
Great.
which would be one of the last sheets. Right before that, one more. So it's all of these exterior fixtures. So the second floor patio. And then the back side of the house along the fence line outside the garage. And then on either side of the garage entrance. And the rest are recessed can fixtures up as you go up the stairs.
Okay. Are the water heaters exterior?
The water heaters, I did not actually locate them.
Okay. Okay. Anything else to add? I mean, I guess, is there a landscape component?
Yes,
Okay, let's flip to that.
and that supposedly had already been approved, but let's go there. Last sheet. We're going towards the front.
Hmm. Can you direct?
Yes,
into
the second to
sheet?
last sheet. Landscape, second to last sheet.
No, I'm not finding it.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, apparently I failed to attach that sheet.
Hmm.
Or those
Chair Moore, we have the 2020 plans, if that's,
Those have not changed. Yes, sorry.
so if maybe we can find them in the 2020.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you, Will.
Okay. We're relying a little bit on the board members that saw this last to make sure it is acceptable.
Is this the irrigation and landscape plan?
One more sheet up or down, most likely. So this doesn't have a key with it. So if we could keep going forwards.
It does have the sheet index right there, if that's what you're looking for.
No, we're looking for the planting key. There we go. Sort of.
Well, Chair Moore, if I remember correctly, this was very well landscaped in the
Okay.
front, and the owner was in the landscape business.
Correct.
And I think that we were confident that it would be planted out well. I'm surprised because I would have thought there'd be more documentation to our consent calendar comments and so forth, but I don't see them, and I'm kind of hand tied here because I think
Sure.
I don't think we have, we don't see any changes here. And besides, I don't see any incompleteness.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of have my hands tied.
Right. Is there, and Mr. Russell, this is to you, is there another sheet after this that has a planting key or there's sort of the water budget was there. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so would the applicant like to add anything else?
No, just that I had not changed anything design-wise, so I was kind of just going on the fact that it had the design approval, and I just carried on with essentially design development and construction documents.
Okay. So with that, we need to open public comment for this particular item. If there's any member of the public that would like to address the board regarding this project, you can follow the instructions on the screen and raise your hand, and that will alert staff that you would like to speak. Do we have anybody out there that would like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore. So at this time, I see several members of the public in attendance. If you'd like to speak on this item, please click on the raise your hand icon and I will call on you. All right, so at this time, I don't see any hands raised and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. Let's close public comment and go to questions from the board. Does anyone have questions? No?
What about the water heaters?
Okay. Is that a question for the
That's
applicant?
that's a question.
All right, I think in looking at this, and I apologize for not getting that, I think what I would probably do is put it on the inside of the garage towards if you're going inside the garage to the left. There's that open space to the left. So they would be inside, just would vent directly outside. That way they're not facing the property line.
So on the inside of the garage.
Yeah, on the left there.
Okay.
Sorry.
And the front unit has its own water heater already existing somewhere?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question, obvious one. I saw only one gray color for your color board. You're not, and the existing unit and this particular style as contrasting, usually contrasting white trim and so forth. Is that part of your vision?
The white trim that I've got on there?
My color, the color board you showed had one color.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
got
there it is.
this-
Okay,
I know it, sorry, just the scan because it's such a light color, sorry.
I get it.
I
Okay.
totally understand. As soon as I saw this come up, I thought, well, I must have forgotten to put it on there, but I
Okay,
it's just,
very good. And so that's my question.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay, let's go to comments, please.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Ellen Kokinda. I just want to
Yes.
add that since transportation staff haven't reviewed, I understand that the applicant's suggesting to put the water heater inside the garage. So if that's something that's palatable to ABR here, that just needs to be, that would be verified in the building permit process at this stage. So just an FYI on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to comments then.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
First of all, I had a couple, I didn't remember from this 2 years ago, but I do now remember one of the glaring issues in the aesthetics was some kind of mid-post in the very wide garage openings. And if I remember correctly, we discussed that at length with the applicant, and there was just no way to introduce with the traffic, with the turning radiuses and so forth on this very narrow lot that could be approached. So I remember that. And as I discussed, he has very handsomely, the owner has very handsomely planted the rest of the front property, and I think I felt comfortable that his landscape plan was earnest and good. So there's a minimal here, but I think that nothing has significantly changed from last review, and I think that it looks pretty adequate. So I think we can give it final.
Okay. Does anybody have a differing view?
Yes,
Okay,
I
Mr.
do.
Olson. Go ahead, Mr. Olson.
it doesn't have a landscape plan. And it doesn't show where the water heaters are. And we don't have the comments from the, for the consent meeting. And this seems like, while it seems like, I agree that this probably ought to go forward, but there's a lot of missing parts here. And so I'm going to suggest that it go back to consent. And as soon as it can be put on the calendar.
Well, let's go back. Let's flip to Mr. Russell, if we could go to that landscape plan that we found.
But that was the 2020. That isn't
Mhm, Okay.
part of this submittal.
mhm. As
Yeah,
a,
that's an oversight on my part, and I apologize that they have not
Okay.
changed. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, if you could mute yourself, this is a time for the board
Oh,
discussion.
sorry.
I think it's possible, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, that we could put a condition of approval that the landscape plan be included in their building department submittal that would be reviewed as well by the planning department.
So if you say the landscape plan that was submitted with this particular, what we're looking at, yes.
Anyway, that was just a practical question for staff. Is that something that's possible?
Yes, Chair Moore, and I think Ms. Kokinda can.
Yes, I can verify that. And as part of the building permit plan check review, Water Resources would look at it to make sure that the plant listings were appropriate and for the particular type of multi-unit residential and low water usage.
I think our concern is that it matches this landscape plan.
Yes, and that's part of the zoning plan checkers review to make sure that it would comply and match what's been approved. So if you place a condition on it to match this particular one, we'll include that in our review.
Okay, thank you.
Then, Mr. Chair Moore, to Mr. Olson's comment about no comments from consent, the minutes are showing that there were no comments. We gave it compatibility analysis and no other comments. So we did not have any comments. Surprise to me, but that's what happened.
Well, I was remembering a discussion that we had about the landscaping because the owner was a landscape person and the lot had a lot of landscaping existing, and that there were questions about what he was going to take out and what he wasn't going to take out. And so perhaps we resolved it that day. I just don't remember it that way.
Okay. Well, here we are. It appears they have everything in order.
I would agree.
So, Vice Chair Six, would you like to make that motion?
Okay, I would make a motion for final approval with the following conditions: that the undocumented location of a water heater in the garage for the new unit be verified by transportation, that the plan presented, the landscape plan and relevant landscape sheets be incorporated into the final approval set. I think that's about it.
Okay, I'll second that with the discussion that we should say that the landscape plan presented at project design approval be included in the final set for permit review.
A good distinguished, yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, let's take a vote.
All right, I'll start with Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
all right, thank you. Board Member Olson
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right. So, how are we doing on timing for our agenda?
Item 2, Chair Moore, starts at 3:45, and we are allowed to start the next item 15 minutes early. So it is 3:36 now, so we're within that time.
Good to go. Okay. Well, then let's continue on with item 2, which is 2217 Oak Park Lane. It's here for final approval. And this is a proposal for 2 new unit duplex, a new 2-unit duplex using the AUD program. Project consists of 2 new 1,120 square foot 2-story units and an attached 1-car garage. The project would result in 4 residential units ranging in size from 722 to 1,120 square feet with an average size of 993 square feet. The proposed density on this 11,539 square foot lot is 15 dwelling units per acre on a lot with a designation of medium high density, which allows 15 to 27 dwelling units per acre. Total parking would be 4 vehicular spaces, including 3 uncovered and 1 covered, and 4 bicycle parking spaces. Final approval is requested, and the project requires substantial conformance to the plans that received PDA on October 4th of last year. All right, if we could have our motion up. Leave that. Okay. All right. So we found the compatibility analysis finding. We said number 2, study the possibility for a defined pedestrian entrance. Number 3, study further detailing of the entry garage doors, materiality of the handrails of the 2nd floor deck railing. Number 4, study the access from the bedroom to the oak tree. Number 5, provide a landscape plan. Okay. If we have our applicant ready.
I am here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you.
And if you could take us through what you've been,
Okay.
what changes you've made.
I believe Martha DeGeisis is with me as well, I hope. She was going to be here as the landscape architect. We do have that plan. Why don't we start with the landscape plan, which is on sheet probably about the 9th PDF. Or no, it's actually, I think the 11th PDF LP1. And Martha, if you're out there, raise your, you're there. Okay, awesome. Hi, Martha. So let's go to LP1 because this is our site plan and landscape plan, and it addresses a couple of the comments. Oh, let's take a look at the photos real quick because it's good as a reminder for everyone. That's the little there. So that's the little front bungalow and the driveway is on the north side. Just run through these. In fact, while we're going through these, I will tell you we've really in addressing your first comment, which is study the possibility for a defined entrance. Martha and I have walked this repeatedly, and the problem with any kind of an alternative entrance, and I'll show you when we get to the floor plans or the site plan, is it would pretty much obliterate the private yards for the front and middle unit and be a real privacy concern, whereas the driveway currently is kind of the way that guests are accessing the middle unit and doesn't result in any privacy concerns. And, you know, frankly, it just really works pretty well and pretty obvious as an entrance. Why don't we go to that LP1 sheet now and look at that. There we go. So just addressing what I was just talking about, you can see the private open space that's for unit 1 and unit 2 along the side. And that's also for unit 1, that's where the bedroom windows are for that unit. So it really is taking away pretty valuable open space and privacy from those two units. And the driveway really does seem to work pretty darn well for folks getting into the back. There's very little auto traffic, obviously. This plan also shows in the upper left-hand corner, you can see we added a little door out of that one bedroom and a little paving area, which was suggested, and a great suggestion, in fact, from the board the last time through. Martha, why don't I use this opportunity for you to just basically explain what your thinking is on the landscape plan, and then we'll move to the elevations and detailing.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So on the plan, first I'll discuss the screening that is currently present along the driveway edge. So there's a line of bamboo along the driveway edge that's being maintained as a hedge. And given that very narrow planting area and the drive aisle width and so on, we're going to retain that and continue to maintain it as a hedge. And it creates good privacy along that edge and a nice barrier from the neighbor there. I think you probably noticed that in some of the photographs that they scrolled through earlier.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you direct Mr. Russell where to be on the plan?
Yeah, so and again, this is coming up the driveway from the street frontage, and I do not have that bamboo shown there. If you'd like to refer back to the photographs, we can look at that, but it's, again, a very narrowly maintained edge of bamboo, but it is important because it does screen the driveway from the adjacent neighbor. So I just wanted to point that out. So in addition, I'm going to add screening on the bottom part of the plan you see there, and I've got a native hybrid plant there, Myrica californica. It just provides a nice, even, consistent hedge planting that'll grow in sun or shade. So that's a good solution to that edge there, just below unit 3-4 there. And additionally, on the top edge of the plan, I've got the same planting, the Myrica California wax myrtle, and then you can see sort of a hatched edge adjacent to it, and that's more of that bamboo that's existing. And the bamboo also exists on the, what is that, the east side of the property in that kind of hatched area. So yeah, if you take your mouse, that's right, over on that edge. So we have good screening all around that edge, and there's good existing landscape from unit 1 and unit 2, but where the driveway ends in the 2 little parking spaces that are angled to the east of unit 2, I'm adding some more native plant components. So I've got some manzanita and then some smaller decorative perennials, which is island alum root, kind of a pink flowering, reddish flowering, low growing perennial clustered around that manzanita. And then we have some just bark edging and some Oregon grape, which grows well here. This is all on the Santa Barbara low water use list. And then some more native perennials. In front of the parking space that is parallel to unit 3-4, I've got some toyons, and those will be trained up as small trees. And then in the meatier part of that interstitial place between the 2 parking spaces, I've got a Grecian laurel or bay laurel. And that's trained again as a small tree, evergreen, broadleaf evergreen tree. So that'll provide additional screening at that property edge. And then as we progress toward the proposed units there, we have, you can see sort of a flagstone entry patio in front of the north unit, and the walk up to the upper unit, we have again, a flagstone patio, and between a small planting area that has a ceanothus tree, which is a Ray Hartman style ceanothus tree. It's small growing, but it provides a nice blooming canopy during the springtime. And under it, we have blue-eyed grass, another California native hybrid. And then as we go into the rear yards, again, the flagstone patios outside their French doors there, and some colorful sages and more of the island alum root or the coral bells. And so just a nicely little detailed native plant palette, another toyon in the backyard there. So trying to keep it with some native color and little interest there with the blooming perennials and so on, and but mostly depending on the native plants to provide the screening and the canopy. And that's what I have for you.
Okay, why don't we go to sheet A201, which is the elevation sheet. And I realized that we didn't specify Project North here. So for our purposes, looking at these elevations, we'll assume that north is to the right of the sheet, which would be the street side, because that's the way these elevations are labeled. Although Mr. Bill Mahan would be upset with me if not putting north up following State Street, but it's what happens with our confusing 45-degree north. So the front elevation is pretty much as you saw it. We're utilizing these double columns that's similar to the little front bungalow, using double hung windows for the most part, some casement. We do want to use aluminum clad windows instead of wood, which is what is on the existing buildings, obviously for longevity purposes. We did fix the front or the garage door. You can see that will have lights at the top, which I think it will make it nice. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple 4-sectional garage door. On that lower elevation, which is called out the west elevation, we did revise that from the project design approval. I think it's better with that little door in that little courtyard space. Let's go to the next sheet. The colors are all intended to match existing. It's kind of nice, warm color, and we like keeping them the same. That south elevation, which faces the neighbors behind us, is we've minimized the windows there closest to the property line, and that bedroom downstairs has also a little yard space attributed to it. I might mention, because I heard it with the previous applicant, we're not showing it on the plans, but our intent is to put instantaneous water heaters on this back wall of the garage, so it really won't be visible from anybody except from that one bedroom space. And let's go to the detail sheet, which I think is the next or 2 sheets after this one.
Chair Moore, and to the applicant as well, I just wanted to let you know you have 5 more minutes with your presentation.
Okay, that's good. I'll wrap it up quickly. So go to sheet A501, there you go. So here you go, pretty standard details as far as the windows are concerned. Some of the knee bracing, which we're utilizing, or again, emulating from the front house, typical OG gutter condition. The railing is on the lower left-hand side, again, fairly typical. And I believe that addresses all of the comments. So I will end my presentation there.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we will open public comment. If any member of the public would like to address the board regarding this project, item number 2. You can follow the instructions on screen and raise your hand. That will alert staff that you would like to speak.
All right, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So if any member of the public would like to speak on item number 2, please raise your hand and I will go ahead and call on you. All right, so at this time, I don't see any hands raised for this item and we did not get any written public comment. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, and we will close public comment and go to questions from the board. Who has questions? Vice Chair Six, go ahead.
Yes, Chair Moore. Mr. Cannell, I think it's on one of the very first site plan sheets. It in the entry driveway, it says pedestrian lighting. There you go, right there. Oh, this one with the item 5. It says, I think in the index sheet under 5, it was new pedestrian lighting.
So what we thought we would do there is just have little low voltage lighting that would run along and be within that bamboo hedge that Martha was mentioning. So it would just be able to run all the way along there and provide, again, just in thinking in response to the ABR comments before, at least have a safe, you know, low but well enough lit access way back into the back. So those would be probably spaced every, 12 feet, 15 feet on center or something like that.
Okay, you haven't identified or specified them yet.
I have not, but I am thinking that it's a very typical little low, LED light fixture that would have a little hood and be very simple.
So you're hoping to get final without that?
Well, I am. Yes, I confess. I am.
Okay. And for Ms. DeGoss, I can't remember how to pronounce your name, Martha. Is the bamboo hedge on your property or on the other guy's property?
Mr. Six, I am not certain about the disposition of that hedge, whether it's on the neighbors or the current property, but I know that it's being maintained from this edge of the current property. And my suspicion is that it's on this property because there's more of it on the, what we would call the south, I guess you'd say the south edge there behind the proposed units. So my thinking is it belongs to this project.
And you've walked all the way down and it's consistently healthy as it shows in the pictures all the way down.
It is. It's quite dense.
Yeah, it is, to clarify, it is on our property. And in fact, apparently, I believe that it was previously approved at a higher height than a hedge in the front, allowed to remain at that higher elevation.
So, Mr. Cannell, are you repaving the drive?
No.
Okay, up to a point, and then your new stuff will be.
Well, I mean, the pavement in back beyond that one large oak in the middle.
Yeah.
That will all be redone.
So in order to get your lighting, I think that's a great idea of the low lighting, but bamboo roots and so forth would be a logistic.
Well, not really. I mean, this is, again, your typical little low landscape walkway lighting where the cabling is actually on the surface and you just run it between lights. So it wouldn't result in any disturbance at all. We just, stick those things in the ground every every 12 or 15 feet and run them to a single transformer at the new building.
Okay, great. Those are my questions.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Olson, go ahead.
Yes, could we go back to the landscape plan? Well, if the hedge is on the applicant's property, it seems to me like it should be shown here on this landscape plan. Given your attention and obviously importance to keeping it, I think your plan should reflect that somehow. I guess my question is, I'm wondering why you didn't put those in your plans.
I think only because it wasn't on the survey originally, and it's probably just we just didn't think to put it on. I don't have any problem indicating that that hedge, and we can show it accurately on the landscape plan and the site plan.
That's my only question.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. If we could go back to the architectural site plan. Just a couple clarifications. So at the back of unit 1, those boxes, are they, well, I see the trash, and then are those bicycle storage boxes?
Correct. That is correct. So that is the intent, to put our covered bicycle parking there in, just those low container type covered bicycle storage units. And then the trash would be there, and all of that would be fenced.
Okay, so that's for everybody to use.
Yes.
That,
Yep. So that'll be a little common door. So, that little open space now currently is part of unit 1. So that'll be lost for those common facilities, just that portion where the 3 and the 2 is.
And then, so is the kind of the parallel parking space, is that new or was that in the last?
That was in the last,
was it? Okay.
That was in the project design approval. Yeah. And we spent a lot of time with transportation,
yeah,
as far as the location of that stall.
I can imagine. Okay, so all right. And then if we could just flip to the photo looking down the driveway again, just trying to get, maybe it's the next photo where you're kind of in the driveway looking down. There we go.
Yeah, I think there's one from the rear too, maybe looking back, but that shows it.
Okay. So so that parking space is roughly right where that building steps back.
That's correct. That is correct. And that is used as a parking space today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If we go back one photo, so that on this survey, all right, well, it doesn't really matter, but on the survey, it looks like the building, the front unit goes right up to the edge of the driveway. You don't really see that chimney bumping out, but doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean that
in this case.
Yeah, that should have been on the survey.
Okay. And then I just wanted to, this is a question for the board members. So we had that comment about the railing. I remember there was sort of a combination railing. It was sort of, was it half solid and then a railing on top of the garage in the back? or what was our,
I think we showed it as metal before, Mr. Chair.
see.
I think it
I
was
see.
shown as wrought iron, so which it doesn't
Mm.
want to be.
yeah, okay. So now it's all wood and just a very
Yes.
sort of traditional approach.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, anyone else with questions before we move to comments?
I have one question, Mr. Cornell, would you accept a requirement that these low mushroom lights along the bamboo would be at 8 to 10 feet on center max?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Because I think they're very low. Let's say 10, all right?
That's great. That's fine.
And while we're on the subject of lighting, it's probably important that we go look at the exterior lighting as well before we move on.
Yeah, and I think I have failed you on the exterior lighting piece. So I would appreciate it if I could at least get that back on consent, but we essentially are going to have small little appropriate fixtures at the exterior doors only. But we don't intend to have any other lighting besides that. So the front door of the new building in back would have a light, then the little French doors as well would have lights, and then upstairs the same, the door, there would be a light at the top of the stair for that unit. So those are, I will need to give you that cut sheet. I apologize for not having those, but we will be able to resubmit with that fixture.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to comments then. Mr. Olson.
I think this is ready for final approval, and when necessary, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Ms. Sanderson?
I think it should come back to consent with the lighting, especially if he's adding it along the driveway and showing where the bamboo is and adding the light fixtures to the building and showing the location of the water tanks.
Or heater, yeah.
Water heater.
Yeah, the applicant is aware that's the lighting, exterior lighting is a requirement for final approval. So I think with that in mind, Mr. Olson will have to rethink your motion when it comes
I
time.
will.
Anyone else with comments?
Mr. Chair, I think it's ready.
Okay.
With those discussions previous.
Mr. Whalen, anything to add?
No, nothing. Thank you, Chair Moore.
Okay. All right, Mr. Olson, go ahead.
So the motion, are you saying the motion should be to return to indefinite return and to the consent with the following conditions? Is that your suggestion that I'm?
That would be my suggestion, but it's your motion.
Right. Well, I think what you said is that we can't give it final approval without the lighting details. So it seems like if that's true, not much need in making that motion.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Olson, might I suggest that we could say that it is ready for final approval with indefinite continuance to consent for the applicant to show the lighting cut sheets and locations, in particular the landscape lighting along the bamboo hedge and the positioning of the bamboo hedge in relationship to the property line.
Mr. Six, that was eloquent. I think you should make that motion, and I'll withdraw mine.
Did Mary hear that?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Vice Chair Six and Board
Can
Member.
you read it back, please?
Yes. So the motion was for final approval
No,
and to
it's ready.
continue the
It's
project.
ready. It's ready for.
So you mean to say the motion is to continue the project indefinitely to consent? Or you're
Yes.
giving it final approval?
No, I'm not giving it final.
Okay.
May I
understand.
make one request real quick? Can we continue it to the next consent agenda rather than indefinite? So we can be.
Unfortunately, Mr. Connell, we can't schedule those things. It's up to the planning staff to determine if there's room on the schedule. So they'll get back to you with that information.
Mr. Cannell, if I understand, indefinite means it could be next week.
Yep. Okay, continue, please.
All right, thank you. So the motion is to continue the project indefinitely back to consent with the following comment, to show the lighting cut sheets and locations, in particular, show the landscape lighting along the bamboo hedge and show the positioning of the bamboo hedge in relation to the property line.
The other comment, Mary, would be that it is ready for final approval. That would be your first comment.
Okay, yeah, that in.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Olson. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's take a vote.
All right, so I'll start with Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes. Oh my
Board
God.
Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, so the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And just to weigh in, if Mr. Cornell is still here, just check the consent agenda for next week. There is an opening, so.
Great.
A little appeasement as you leave. Okay.
All right. Are we on track for the next item?
Yes, Chair Moore.
Timelines.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Then we can go to item 3, which is 1210 Carpinteria Street. This is a new item for concept review, and this is a proposal to convert a single dwelling unit into 3 dwelling units. The proposal includes remodeling, converting a 1,542 square foot single family residence into a 777 square foot unit and a 765 square foot unit, and converting an existing attached garage into a 488 square foot detached unit. The proposal includes a new 513 square foot 3-car covered carport. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings. Okay. Do we have our applicant? No?
You're being promoted now, Mr. Chair.
Great. Okay, welcome. If you could introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robert Walker with RM Design Group.
Welcome. So before you jump in, if you could just try and keep tabs on your timing. We try and keep the application or the applicant's presentation to 15 minutes. So if you could keep tabs on that, it'd be appreciated. Go ahead.
Will do. Thank you. I'm here to present this on behalf of our clients at OP Equity. I wanted to make a quick note that we saw on the agenda. I think it was a former property owner on the agenda. Just want to make a note to make sure that gets updated to the current property owner. But we're remodeling this property. It's a single family residence at Carpinteria. The existing residence we're going to convert into a 2-unit duplex. And the garage unit, or the garage, we're going to convert into a studio unit. We're adding carport parking, 3 spaces that we've been working with transportation staff on the southern portion of the site. And we have reworked the existing space between the garage and the single family residence as additional units. So if we can jump to the site plan. Thank you very much. Perfect. Here, we have the existing site along Carpinteria Street. The house right now is connected here. Sorry, there's an existing breezeway between the house and the garage currently. And when we get to the photos in a couple of sheets, you'll see it's not even being used as parking right now. There's a gate in front of it, a bunch of storage. And on the southern portion of the site, we have a yard, our open yard space. Our current access to the site is off of Carpinteria. There's proposed, I guess, can we please move on to the next sheet? Thank you. So our project proposes continuing to use one space off of Carpinteria and then 3 additional spaces off of South Soledad. Since we are a multifamily project, we are not backing out onto the street. So we've worked with transportation staff to make sure that there's adequate backup space to pull out onto the street. We have 3 parking spaces in the carport below, and then all additional paving is permeable paving. So we're trying to add as little permeable space as possible. Between the house and the existing garage, we're going to be removing the roof area. So disconnecting the existing garage from that existing house. And we've worked with transportation off of Carpinteria where you enter the curb cut. Right now it's a 25-foot curb cut. There's going to be future bridge rework. So we've been working with transportation staff to reduce that curb cut to 16 feet and actually shift it to their desired location, which will be a future improvement with that bridge improvement. Could we please continue? Oh, sorry. There's the open space provided is on that southern portion of the site. Is actually going to be the open space for all of the units. Thank you. And trash is located on the north side along the garage, and it'll be screened from the street with fencing and again, permeable paving paths to get to that area. We have also provided the required bike parking adjacent to the unit. So there's 2 covered park spaces along the existing house on the south side. And then there will be 1 other additional space on the north side next to the garage for that studio unit. So they both have close access to their own parking spaces. Please move on to the next sheet. Thank you. So here are the existing photos of the site. Top right, you can see where that covered breezeway is right now. In our proposed elevations in a couple of sheets, you'll see where we're going to be removing that grading and separating the roof, actually making that an uncovered portion. And then the existing plaster and vinyl windows will be remaining on the project. And we think this provides kind of a minimal visual impact to the actual building itself. It's reducing roof area. The concrete in that breezeway area will be remaining. So that's already existing impermeable paving. So we will be adding, we won't be adding any impermeable surface there. It's already existing. Can we move on to the next sheet, please? Thank you. This is the proposed ground floor plan. So up above, you can propose an existing, all it is. So up above, you can see there's an existing 2-car garage, breezeway, 1 single family dwelling. We're continuing to use that existing porch, existing entrance on the house to access 2 units. Sorry, there's a little bit of a graphic seeing the elevations, but each will have its own kitchen, living area, laundry in unit, and studio will be the same, laundry, kitchen. Oh, I'm sorry. We did work on putting a wall on this one. So we have a 1-bedroom over there right now. I've been referring to it as a studio. It's a 1-bedroom in the garage. And then you can see the dotted lines to the roof above. We've removed that in the breezeway, removed the roof between those two buildings. So it's a R2 building duplex right there, and then a separate building that is the 1-bedroom. Will you please move on to A6? This further, the roof plan for further clarification on where we're removing that roof. We're going to keep all the overhangs between the two buildings consistent with what you see on the rest of the building. We have the existing above and the roof plan for it below. Next sheet, please. These are the existing elevations and demo. I think we can probably just jump right to, yeah, the proposed. Thank you very much. I believe we only have one window that we're adding to the project on the, we're adding actually 2 windows over there on the garage, and we're removing the garage door. We're trying to keep the other openings to remain as consistent as possible. So those new windows on the garage will match the existing white vinyl on the rest of the house. Show the removed carport. In order to create enough clear area for parking in the breezeway, we've reworked this, how the stairs reach the landing off of the kitchen for that unit. Yes, thank you. But other than that, there aren't too many substantial changes to the exterior. You can start to see on the proposed north elevation, we have the screening for the trash, view 1 there. Yeah, it'll be a tall 5-foot dog-eared cedar fence to shield the trash from view from the street. And we see here, if you scroll down a little bit, I can't see it on my screen. I don't know if everybody else can see it. Thank you. We have the white vinyl windows, beige plaster, and the asphalt shingle roofing. So the client's intent is to update all the roofing once we remove that portion and modify the roof, and then put a new roof on there. And then the exterior paint will be refreshed, and the white vinyl windows will remain. Just the new windows being white vinyl. Can we go to the next sheet, please? Thank you. Here we have the existing sections for the building. The garage is slab on grade there, and we have a raised area in the existing single-family dwelling. So as part of this project around the garage, we'll have some water mitigation measures. It's very close to the 100-year flood zone right there. But the rest of the other single-family residents, those 2 units are well above that 100-year flood zone. Again, more clarification on the kind of the portion of the roof that's being removed, but that's made pretty clear in the elevations. We move on to the next sheet, please. Perfect. You can see kind of, again, just minor areas of exterior updates, and then continuing to use as many of the interior walls as we can that were existing. Most of the new walls are for separation or closets within a bedroom area. Next slide, please. Next sheet. There we go. This sheet's just to provide more clarity on the trash enclosure, access to it, direct access out to the street, that we have permeable paving to it. We're not adding any impermeable surface. As you can see, we have 22 feet, 8 inches, I think, to the property line from the house. So I don't think proximity to the property line was a major concern over here with the trash enclosure. Next sheet, please. There we go. And we have our stormwater guidance, and that's all I have to present. Today, I look forward to hearing your comments, and I know we've had some transportation comments from the neighbors I've seen, and we've been working with staff to make sure to address the parking concerns and make it make sure that it's adequately parked and that the access to the parking is to city requirements. So we're happy to hear your feedback.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it's appropriate right now, but Mr. Russell or Ms. Kokinda, it might be helpful to have just a quick clarification on what parking is actually required per zoning as we move into public comment.
Am I allowed to provide that clarification?
I'd prefer it if it came from planning staff.
Okay.
Mr.
Moore.
Russell, go ahead.
I was going to defer to you, Ms. Kokinda. I'm not 100% sure in that zone, so I would need to look it up and I can get back to you.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the application completeness letter. We'll look it up and make sure we can clarify for you.
Great, thank you. We'll just take a moment to do that before we jump into public comment.
Moore, it might take a couple of minutes. I
Okay.
don't know if you would prefer to schedule a short break or if you would like to continue with public comment in the meantime, what your preference would be.
I was actually just going to ask for a clarification from the applicant, but go ahead and keep digging that up for us if you could. To the applicant, is there any landscape component to this?
There's actually quite a bit. You see that hedge along the street, it's existing. There's some existing trees on site by the carport. We plan to just trim and save. So there's not much additional landscaping besides the permeable paving off of Soledad and the gravel or permeable paving where the trash is. But we plan to preserve as much of what's already on the site.
Okay, thank you. Well, while planning staff is digging that information up, why don't we open public comment regardless and just see what the public has to say. So if a member of the public would like to address the board regarding this project, you can follow the instructions on screen. You can raise your hand and that will alert staff that you would like to make a comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. So at this time, I don't see any members of the public in attendance for this meeting, but we did receive 2 pieces of written correspondence, one from Angeline Castanola and another one from Emma Gill, which were distributed to the board before this meeting. Back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's just continue on. So let's close public comment and go to questions from the board. Who has, Mr. Olson, go ahead.
Yes, would you repeat what you said about floodplain and the garage height?
Yes, we have topography for the, and we have the height of the 100-year flood. We're within a threshold to build there, but we have to do some water mitigation measures around the kind of north end of the garage to make sure that we're meeting the standards for that 100-year flood line. But we are above it by about 6 inches or a foot, that 100-year flood line.
And do you have any idea what those water mitigation efforts would be?
Yeah, they're gonna be minor drainage, like hand graded French drain sort of water mitigation.
Okay, thank you. I don't have another question at the moment.
Okay. Mr. Whalen, did you have your hand up as well?
Yes, I did. Thank you,
Great.
Chair Moore. I have a few questions, and why don't we start with parking related ones. The plans indicate there's a carport for the 3 new spaces, but there's no further description of what that structure is. Can you help us out with that, Mr. Walker, or will that appear on later plans?
The design of it will appear on later plans. View 4 here on this sheet is showing that it's going to be 4 posts, site built, and we would prefer to do it in a style that matches the house. So maybe a simple gable with the same roof and roof pitch, but we would be open to suggestions on that carport.
Very good. That sounds very logical way to go. My next question has to do with, and hopefully you can explain this for me, what is the logic about removing the breezeway roof? Is that so that it qualifies as a parking space? And would it not qualify if it were still roofed? I'm just not understanding the logic of that. Or does it have to do with creating an ADU?
This third unit is not an ADU. I'm not sure if it's possible to promote. I have Rachel Rayner on the line as well. She's the planner on the project. I work with at RM, but it is necessary to separate these 2 structures in order to create 3 units on the site.
All right then. And then on that, the former garage site, you've indicated recycle bins for 3 units. That appears that this may not be adequate. Have you any thoughts on the adequacy of the trash and recycle area for 3 units?
I had made the bins the sizes recommended by planning staff and waste. So I made the trash recycle yard all the dimensions that were requested.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
And then next to that, you've indicated a bike parking in between the driveway access and the recycle bins. Have you, can you talk a little bit about the type of bike parking and how the accessibility to the trash works around that?
Yeah, the bike parking, I think there's a spec for it, just in notation, cycle safe eco park bike enclosure. It's one of those low enclosures, protected from the rain. It's lockable. You see them kind of public institutions. I don't have a picture of one on the sheet here, but it would be a small door that opens up. So it's about the height of a bike. Your bike can slide in, you can close it and lock it. The client's spoken to me about this. I know this is kind of like the minimum requirement. The client potentially has a desire to do one that is a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, I guess, and just like a plastic bin is what a lot of those bike storages are. So we'd be open to doing maybe some sort of like metal grating that's lockable with a protected weather cover. But
let's-
just one more thing. This cycle safe eco park standard is one of the bicycle parking boxes that meets the city of Santa Barbara's lockable biking standards.
Well, I'll look forward to more detail on subsequent plans about
Okay.
that whole area. I believe that's all my questions, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you.
And Chair Moore, I would like to just step in at this time too, just to provide an answer to that parking question. So this was reviewed by zoning staff for completeness review. And in that completeness review, no parking comments came up. So what is required is 3 covered and 1 uncovered. And that's exactly what is proposed. Or 3
Okay.
covered, 1 uncovered. So
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Vice Chair Six, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, can we go to the site plan first, please, the proposed? Can we scoot it up on the screen a little bit? I'm cut off at the bottom. There you go. Okay, so first of all, on Soledad, am I to understand that you will be providing a new curb cut at that, well, if we go to the blow up there of that southern or downsheet area, so you're going to do a curb cut of 16 feet wide
Yes.
and then a curb, but no parkway. So both sides of this curb cut will be concrete also? I mean, I'm just looking at a grade square there with, oh, there you go. So is that my understanding? Is that the curb cut will be at 16 feet wide?
Yeah, transportation requested we have a sidewalk there as well as a curb and gutter to the property line.
Okay, very good. So if I read my numbers right, you have more open space for the provided open space between the existing unit and the new carport. So it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's an abundance of distance of open yard space between the existing building and the carport. But then I see very narrow planting between your turnaround deck, turnaround pavers and so forth, and your carport. Can you explain why the carport is so pushed towards Soledad and no significant ability to plant in front of the wings of that turnaround platform?
Yeah, that's a good question. The intent, I think overall is just to provide the most yard space as possible to reduce the amount of permeable paving that we have out there and keep the amount of grass and open space as large as possible. But I see what you're saying, where if we shifted the whole thing, maybe 2 or 3 feet, we wouldn't be adding permeable space. We wouldn't be adding any paving, but maybe allowing some place to plant there along the property line,
Well, as I see
which I
it,
think is a very valid suggestion.
is it 2 or 3, or could it be 5 or 6 or 10? I mean, do you not have a very significant overage of open space?
I think the intent would be to balance it, I guess. So,
Okay,
having a yard for 3 units, for sports or recreation or that sort of thing. From my client's perspective, the more yard, the better. So I think we would try to shoot for a balance.
okay.
If I might jump in, I think we're also just trying to, I just wanted to add on to Robert's comments, but I think we have some existing trees that we're trying to ensure we don't remove.
Oh, thank
the
you,
site.
Rachel. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I
So you're
think
saying that last upper sheet tree of those three along the carport is going to be in the way of shoving the carport further up sheet?
the canopy of that tree in the open space right there is larger than I have suggested there. Which can be, I can update the canopies to be
Okay.
more accurate.
Well, I think we're going to need more information on that. If we go up to the very topmost of the property, it seems when one does the new curb cut, your suggestion is to fill in the parkway with more concrete all the way to the bridge abutment instead of having a flanking parkway on the other side of the curb cut and having people walk and jog faster or faster around a more landscaping in a parkway. It was this configuration of blessed by or demanded by transportation or public works?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. I think that the reason we don't have anything on our side is more lack of information on our end. We were where it is and that it's 16 feet wide was requested by transportation, and that improvement will be done not by us, but by the city when the bridge is upgraded or that portion of sidewalk is upgraded. And I believe it was requested that our clients are going to pay some sort of in lieu fee or some fee for their portion of that upgrade.
So being off your property line, you're not in control of that configuration. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we had put it, we'd worked a couple times. We put it exactly where transportation had requested we put that curb cut.
Okay.
They've requested, if I might also jump in, they've requested that we keep them informed of our project's timing, and there's going to be further conversation in our final working drawings, construction drawings to align with the intent of the Sycamore Creek Bridge Replacement Project.
Okay, thank you. Is the chain link then obviously is going to there it is. Okay, never mind. Can you explain if these guys are, if units 1 and A and B are parking across from their open space, how do they get to their units? And tag along question is, how do you envision that open space being developed?
No, that's a really good question. I'd say there's a path missing at the moment. So permeable paving, probably most likely, skinny permeable paving path 3 to 4 feet wide to connect to the concrete walkway in front of the house. And we'll make sure to add that. That's a great point. As far as the open space, the current concept is to leave it undeveloped. We don't have any landscaping plans for that area.
Okay. Is there, if we go to the blow up for the turnaround of the unit being transformed from the existing garage, I think it's up sheet. There you go. Is there any possibility in this configuration to introduce more landscaping in front of that unit C?
Yeah, I definitely think there is. I believe we actually have a more recent iteration of this where transportation has asked us to remove unnecessary paving. So I'm sorry that it's not what we're looking at right now, but where it says new permeable paving in the visibility triangle, that's one of the areas they had done a transportation analysis of it with the print sets. They said they don't think we need that area. We've removed that area. Down near the, can we go back to the overall site plan as well? The the southern part of the site. If we can zoom in on that enlarged parking area, maybe.
Well, that's the driveway off Soledad.
Yeah, sorry, the driveway off Soledad. The area along the right side, I guess the east side, that permeable area, backup area, I guess it's called right now, that's removed. So it just comes out straight from the parking, and we've actually reduced the amount of permeable paving at the southwest corner of the plan. So where the left visibility triangle is, they had us remove some of that permeable paving near the property line as it's unnecessary for the kind of backup maneuver.
Okay. So we have some refinements to see, and you probably can sense where I'm going to add more planting and less pavement, and especially in front of the elevation of Unit C. Can you go to, so you're not proposing any architectural improvements to any of the elevations, correct?
We just new windows.
Okay.
And removing the garage door and the roof adjustments.
And in your presentation, you said that you were going to do a whole new roof, but your notes here say existing roof to remain. Are you redoing the whole roof?
I can double check with the client, but based on the condition of the roof, I think they would replace the whole roof at the same time they do those roof adjustments.
And well, we're on this, I understand, I get clear that we're doing a very modest proposal here, but the existing window to remain in the back side of the Unit C, right there in the center elevations on the right-hand side of the sheet, yeah. It seems like that's the living room. Is there any motivation to have, is there a lovely backyard there that the living room isn't appreciating?
I think it is, in a way, yes, there is. There, just with the property line, and if you're looking at it open space, it doesn't, I think the answer there is yes. There's, I think, about 10 feet or 8 feet or something like that back there. But that window could potentially be larger or looked at as becoming maybe a sliding door so that they can really utilize that space.
Could that be in your budget then, perhaps?
Yes, okay. I think it would be in the client's budget for this.
Okay, those are my questions. Sorry for that extent.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Olson, go ahead.
Yes, if we go back to the site plan, please. I think this is a disagreement here with Mr. Six as a suggestion that open space be reduced to a minimum. Seems like with 3 units here and judging that perhaps there might be children involved, that open space is valuable, and trying to reduce it as a concept, I would disagree with.
May I respond, Chair Moore?
Sure.
Mr. Olson, I think you misconstrued what I'm saying. I think there's a balance between, what looks like about 2 feet of possible landscaping on the wings of those turnarounds at Soledad for possible screening, where right now there's an existing beautiful hedge. So I'm thinking a balance between, the width of that internal yard and the depth of the landscape either side of their curb cut.
Well, perhaps I did misunderstand you. I thought you were suggesting that the carport be moved back further into the lot.
I am suggesting that.
Well, that reduces that open space by doing that.
I think I think there is a balance between what I see as an excessively wide and the very inadequate depth of the planting each side of that curb cut on Soledad.
I think I understand what you're saying, and I am in disagreement with that. I just think that
Right.
open space on the inside of the lot is valuable.
All right.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? Mr. Whalen, go ahead.
I wanted to return a point that Mr. Six started in on. Could you go to the floor plan for the unit C? Mr. Six was talking about enlarging a window in the living area. Sorry, I don't know which sheet that is.
You're right there now.
Yes, it occurs to me that a window could go into the kitchen area. With the removal of the roof, you're going to get really the greatest light and sun exposure on that wall where the kitchen and the back door is. So is there any reason that a window couldn't be supplied in that room, Mr. Walker?
No, there's not, from my opinion. The building separation we have there, that 13 feet, 10 inches really allows us to do whatever openings we want in that wall.
I would think that's a really good opportunity to introduce some direct sunlight into a rather small unit. Thank you. That's my only question.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? No? Okay, well, let's go to comments then. We could. All right, who would like to start? Vice Chair Six, go ahead.
Well, I think my questions kind of are guiding my comments that first of all, this goes from a single family residence where the homeowner is responsible, whether we like what he's done or not, is responsible and interested in the landscaping and the open space and the screening, et cetera, et cetera. Now that this is turning into a multi-unit where the tenants don't have that primary responsibility for a developed site plan and landscape plan, it seems to me that this is what's suggested here is woefully inadequate. And we need to see a fully developed landscape and flat work and site plan amenities that are primarily self-sustaining and not contingent upon the responsibility of the tenants. So I think that number one, that I think that we need to see just that, a fully developed site plan with pathways, as I suggested, and so forth. I do feel strongly that there could be a way to move this garage away from South Soledad to perhaps even there's a beautiful hedge there all along that property that could possibly be saved with the exception of the driveway cut, of course. So I think that would be an important feature of the streetscape. I'm not real fans of the chain link fence, but be that what it may, maybe that's too much for this budget. As Mr. Wieland and I think there is, some reasonable expense to be expenditures to make that garage, the unit C, a lot more livable with introduction of some more windows, whether in the living room and kitchen. I would support a motion that encourages Public Works and the powers that be and staff to maintain and develop a parkway landscape on the upsheet side of the new reduced curb cut along Carpinteria Avenue. And I think that it would be smart and look forward to the roof being completely redone in its entirety.
Okay.
And look forward to, look forward to the applicant's hint that there are refinements to reducing the turnaround hardscape, and in particular, some opportunity to get foundation planning along the front side of Unit C, the Carpinteria side of Unit C. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Nothing to add?
Sure.
Mr. Wade.
I would also duplicate member 6's suggestions. As for Unit C and the existing garage, with such a small room, even the bedroom could have a second window, which would give it a view to the natural area rather than the one it has to the street. Small rooms like that can benefit from having multiple windows of any size. I would also support moving the carport assembly so that a planting area, perhaps of equal width of the existing one on Carpinteria Street, would tend to screen that new parking area. And I would also support the complete redo of the roof, along with a more thorough site plan that shows the circulation, where the bike parking is, how its correct size and disposition, and how it relates to the vehicular circulation that bicycles usually take. As was mentioned, the walkways. We really need to have a better understanding of the site circulation within the landscape plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, comments are, I appreciate the effort to maintain that open space. And I think that's valuable for the residents and tenants of this development. It does strike me as just a little bit awkward that this carport is kind of standing out there by itself. So in my mind, it brings up the question of, well, if you're gonna do that, what would you combine that with some other elements on the site? For instance, the bike parking, and the trash enclosure, and things like that. What could you do to make that a more efficient use of space? And potentially that would open up other areas on the site plan to the residents that are adjacent to their apartment or their front door or side yard or whatever. particularly area right along the creek could be, I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of potential there. So perhaps as you're studying the configuration of the carport, you can just investigate how you might take advantage of that and double dip, so to speak, to make it a really useful element for that site. I also agree that, you know, there just seems to be a lot of paving in that, along that corner of Soledad and Carpinteria Street that's being proposed. If it can be reduced at all, that would be great. It also appears that you're missing a number of street trees in the parkway along Carpinteria Street. You're showing it as all, looks like all pavers right now. You know, at one point that was a parkway. So it would be interesting to know if that was an approved change or if it's something that needs to be reinstated. So I think your site plan in general just needs a little bit more detail, survey information, et cetera, so we can get a better sense of what's there and what should be there. Those are my comments. Anybody else to round out the comments before we make a motion? Nope. Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion? Go ahead, Vice Chair Six.
Well, I was so prepared with my comments, I think it would be easiest for me to make that motion. So I would make a motion for indefinite continuance for the applicant to come back to full board with the following comments: to provide develop the site plan and landscaping, flat work, pathways, amenities more appropriate for a multifamily development. To study relocation of the carport to provide more screening along landscape planting areas along Soledad, balancing that with generous internal open space for use of residents. To study rearrangement of the carport, bike storage, and trash storage in another configuration to consolidate and to make more efficiencies between the units and those elements. Linkage or pedestrian walk to efficiency. We look forward to verify the status and need for replacing of street trees. We would recommend that with the extent of roof reconfiguration, that the entire structures be re-roofed. We look forward to seeing the carport design, and we look forward in a refined site plan to see areas where hardscape can be reduced and planting areas increased, In particular, in the turnaround areas of both the new covered carport and the newly established uncovered between the units. And in particular, we'd like to see opportunities to provide landscape instead of hardscape against the front elevation of Unit C. Oh, and then lastly, I don't think I mentioned this, we would encourage the applicant and Public Works to look at introduction of a parkway material on the, what would that be? The north side of the new curb cut along Carpinteria Street.
Okay.
And one more thing, to carefully document and verify the coordination between the existing trees on the back property line and the new carport.
Okay. I will second that. And under discussion, would you accept the addition of the comment that the applicant shall carefully study the carport design to ensure that the carport elements are sympathetic to the existing structure, and that the vertical supports are not undersized, so visually they don't appear too spindly.
I welcome that add.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Whalen?
Was there any mention of studying the size and the addition of windows to the existing garage future unit?
Yes, I think I did.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Should we have?
Let's read that back.
Yeah, read it back.
All right, so the motion is to continue the project indefinitely with the following comments. Number one, develop the site plan and landscaping flat work to make it more appropriate for multifamily development. Number two, study relocation of the carport to provide more landscape planning, screening areas along Soledad, and balance that with generous internal open space for use of residents. Number three, study the rearrangement of the carport, bike storage, and trash storage in providing another configuration to consolidate and make more efficiencies for pedestrian walkways between the units and those elements. Number four, verify the status and need for adding or replacing street trees. The board recommends that the entire structure be re-roofed. Number five, the board looks forward to—
Wait, hold on. What was the second part of that?
The board recommends that the entire structure be re-roofed.
Oh, that's separate from the street trees, right, Mary?
Yeah, I can make
Okay.
it separate. So next I have number six, the board looks forward to seeing the carport design. Make sure the carport elements are sympathetic to the existing structure and the vertical supports are not undersized. Number seven, the board looks forward to a refined site plan to see areas where hardscape can be reduced and planning areas increased, in particular in the turnaround areas of both the new covered carport and the uncovered parking between the units. The board would like to see opportunities.
Hold. Not between the uncovered parking, but in front of the Unit C.
Okay. So in particular in the turnaround areas in front of Unit C, or between the new covered carport and the front of Unit C.
So I'm confused.
Oh, actually, I have that as the next sentence. I have that the board would like to see opportunities to provide landscaping instead of hardscaping on the front elevation of Unit C.
Okay, that does it.
So I'm not sure
Yeah.
if that's related to that.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So then number 8, encourage the applicant and public works to look at the introduction of parkway material on the north side of the new curb cut along Carpinteria Street. Number 9, document and verify the ordination between the existing trees on the back property line and the front property line. And number 10.
No, the coordination between the trees on the back property line and the carport and the new carport.
And the new carport. Okay. And the last point I have is to study the size and addition of windows to the existing garage.
To the new Unit C.
For new Unit C. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else?
Yes, I think some special appreciation for Mary and her ability to do that. It's extraordinary.
Yes, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's take our vote, please.
All right, so I'll start with Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, so the motion carries. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. With
Can I
that,
ask?
we can, sorry, we're all done with this item, so we need to move on. Let's take a 5-minute break. Let's adjourn. And when we return, Vice Chair Six, you'll be running the show. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right. Thanks.
ABR for February 7th and continue to next item. Our remaining item is 3102 State Street. This is a new item, concept review. It's a proposal for alterations and additions to a commercial building and parking area. The project involves partial removal of an upper floor and interior improvements. Proposal includes a new 86 square foot addition, expansion of an outdoor dining patio, and exterior improvements. Parking is to remain the same at 13 spaces with an additional 10 bike parking spaces to be provided. There will be no final appealable decision at this hearing. The project requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis and urban design guidelines. Thank you, Will.
My apologies.
So our applicant is here, and if you would like to introduce yourself and make a presentation.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Lauren Ballantyne, and I'm the applicant and representative of the owners at 3102 State Street. We are proposing alterations, an 86 square foot addition and site improvements to the existing 2,130 square foot commercial development. And today we are here just for a pre-application design review for initial feedback on the direction of our project and the compatibility with the neighborhood. Well, if we could turn to page 1 of the photo pages so I can familiarize you with the existing development. Not the plan set, the photo pages. It's a separate PDF. There we go. Okay, so here we can see the project parcel is a corner lot fronting State Street in Calle Palo, Colorado. It's a 2-story structure with small outdoor dining patio that sits back from the public right-of-way at an angle so that the front facing or the front facade faces the corner. The structure has been vacant for some time and historically has been used as a market, deli, and service station. And if we scroll through pages 2 and 3, we can see additional views of the parcel showing the existing condition. The lot currently has minimal landscaping consisting of hedges at the perimeters and 2 large trees at the west lot line. There's no visible striping for parking, no bicycle parking, and no pedestrian access from the public right-of-way. Pages 4 and 5 of the photo pages give us context of the neighborhood and the adjacent parcels. We can scroll there. We see a service station that's directly across Calle Palo, Colorado. We have some businesses to the north, and then on the following pages, we see the surrounding neighborhood, which is Mackenzie Park, and some open space. And now we can turn to the plan set. Maybe we could go to page 2, which is the site plan. So here we are proposing a small addition to the structure at the rear, and that's shown hatched. And this will house a walk-in cooler. The existing patio will be expanded, include a new freestanding awning, fire and water features. The barrier at the patio is proposed to be a raised planter box with bench seating built into the interior. The existing front-facing fixed windows will be altered to provide a new door for patio access and awning windows for outdoor bar seating. We are removing 2 driveway envelopes and reducing the width of the State Street driveway envelope to provide one-way circulation. And this was per recommendations we received while consulting with the Transportation Department. The lot will be striped to create 13 parking spaces. We will provide a new accessible pedestrian access from State Street and provide bike parking and new landscaping. We can maybe spend some time on the renderings, and that would be page 10 of the plan set. Maybe here if we could zoom in on image 3 on the lower left-hand corner. And this is a rendered image of the proposed south elevation. And one thing I'd like to note is that these concept images show an angled awning. And after we submitted this package to the city, we have since revised the design of the awning to have a horizontal covering. So the supports will remain angled as shown. However, the covering itself will be horizontal. I'd also like to note that the landscape shown on these images isn't reflective of the actual proposed plantings. If we've only recently retained a landscape architect that will be assisting us with a preliminary plan for your next review. These are just placeholders for the purpose of providing a visual of the locations of the landscaping. And we definitely welcome any input that the board might have on the types of plantings that would be appropriate for our application. So our overall objective with the design is to complement and modernize the mid-century architecture. We want to maintain the overall proportions of the fenestration, primarily making alterations for functionality. We need to repair and replace materials and features that are in poor condition, like the attached awnings and the roof. The landscaping and features are altered and feel of the property, make it more inviting. Image 4 on this sheet is the east elevation. You could turn there. Maybe zoom out a little. Can you hear me? Oh, perfect. So here we can get a good look at the proposed addition, the new attached awning to replace the existing, and new windows. The addition is proposed to be a contrasting material and diminutive in size as to not compete with the existing structure. It also will have a flat roof and parapet wall to conceal the relocated AC units that are not currently screened. And if we can turn to images 1 and 3 on the last page of this plan set, we'll look at renderings of the interior patio. The built-in seating, fire and water features are shown, as well as the proposed glass barrier above the new planters that will provide sound and wind protection for the patrons. The non-fixed furniture we have shown is just shown kind of glass because it's not yet selected. Additionally, we are proposing a new composition shingle roof to replace the existing clay tile roof as it's in need of repair. And we feel the comp is a little bit more of a compatible material for the style of architecture. We are proposing a new finish color at the existing wood and metal siding. And we are also proposing that the integrated stone monument and stone entry planter are to remain. One other thing I'd like to note is I'm not sure if the board is able to give comments on modifications, as this is technically a pre-application meeting for comments. However, we will be seeking modifications for parking and bicycle parking in the setback, as this is in an overlay district. So if possible, we'd like to hear comments that would allow us to go to the staff hearing officer for those. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Valentine. So with that, I will open public comment or anybody in the public who wishes to speak on this specific item. Please follow the directions from staff.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Six and board members. So at this time, if any member of the public would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. All right, so I don't see any hands raised and we didn't receive any written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Vice Chair Six.
All right, thank you very much. So we will close the public comment portion of the meeting and bring it back to the board for questions. Does anybody have questions? Ms. Anderson.
All right, I will kick us off. If we can go to the site plan, please. Can you walk us through which site walls will receive wood and which are called out for plaster?
Site walls?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you clarify?
Yeah, the site walls.
So there's actually no site walls. We just have proposed a, let me see if I can annotate this here.
Some plaster.
Oh, I see. These are existing stone walls that we'd like to proposed are covered in plaster and raised a little bit for ABC. The existing site wall, it actually goes, let me see if I can get another color here. More at the angle of the blue. Well, the second red, I guess it didn't turn blue. So we want to enlarge the patio by creating the plaster wall that runs more parallel to the lot line instead of at a different angle. So we can really take advantage of the seating in this area here. Can you see my mouse? This area here. The barriers on this side are all going to be wood with planter boxes and then a glass barrier above that. And those are the only walls. This existing planter box, it's like 18 inches high or something, will remain as well.
Okay, and then the wood for the planter boxes is the same wood for the new addition in the back?
Yeah, we're proposing a horizontal wood. The exact finish is to be determined because we're still very early in the concept review. We wanted to just get some overall comments before we dive too deep into the exact finishes. But yeah, we are proposing horizontal wood, not reclaimed, not too rustic, a finished wood there and at the addition.
Okay, and then in the new trellis or new covered patio, are you planning on having any lights or heaters in that?
We will likely have lights, concealed lights. It will be louvered awning, so primarily it's just for shade protection during the day. And we will have patio heaters. The exact location and type is to be determined.
Okay, those are all my only questions for right now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson. Other questioners? Mr. Olson.
Yes, thank you. Perhaps I missed this, but the round circle on the masonry spire, is that intended at some point to be the sign?
Yes, that is existing sign location. So we would like to go through a separate sign permit to have their logo installed there. We can maybe go to the photo pages to see that existing monument. There will be no changes to the size.
Thank you. That's my only question.
All right. Mr. Wilt.
Yeah, me?
Yeah, you.
Thank you. Vice Chair 6. This first question starts off as a comment, but there's no existing plan to compare the new plan with. So forgive me if these questions are a little vague. There are some existing large trees on the property. Are they all to all be removed?
No, we'd like to retain all the trees if possible. There's only one small tree that is located adjacent this driveway envelope that the condition looks questionable and we may remove, but otherwise we'd like to keep all of the trees. One of the large trees is back here. It will be untouched by any of our development.
Ms. Valentine, Ms.
Yes.
Valentine, we can't see your cursor.
Oh, you can't?
I can't. Can anybody else?
Well, it moves awfully fast.
That is correct, Vice Chair 6, and to Ms. Valentine. You can only see my cursor, so if you were to annotate on the screen, that's the only thing we can see.
So if you would,
I thought we could see the mouse through the annotation. So here we go. Put some arrows.
Okay, thank you.
So could you point out?
We have a tree that's here that will stay. Oh, screen got larger. So there we go. One that's here that will stay.
Good.
One that's approximately here that we will incorporate into the patio and build around. And the one that we were discussing that might be removed is a really small one here. And it just depends on, if it's in good condition or not. We would also Once we get further into the landscape development, we'd like to actually add trees. We think that this area is a great spot for another large tree and potentially one in the front corner as well, somewhere in this area.
Yeah. Thank you. That would be much appreciated. There's a rather large palm tree out on State Street that probably falls in your landscape plan too. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and we have designed around that one as well, as we'd like to keep it as many trees as possible.
Good to know that they will be removed because they all are rather large specimen trees. Like Member Amber Anderson, I'm a little confused about where the existing rock wall site walls are and where new ones are, which old ones are going to be removed. So the question is, are there existing rock site walls that will be removed and replaced by new ones?
These are the only two. So there's one here and one here that will be removed. This one actually extends into a shallow planter box that goes across the front, which will also be removed for the bar seating in this area. So we are keeping the one at the rear and then rebuilding a wall that aligns or lines up parallel to the lot line here so as to extend the patio.
Very good. That's quite clear. And then my last question, you call it an awning. I would call it a trellis. Which is it? Or am I splitting hairs as an architect who knows what's what?
We'll call it a trellis. Yeah.
It's a trellis.
It's a freestanding shade structure.
A freestanding.
I mean, technically, it's not going to have plants climbing on it. So I don't know if, trellis a lot of times has like bougainvillea or vines. So I called it an awning, pergola. We can call it whatever you like.
I think a shade structure comes closest to your intent. Those are all my questions, Vice Chair Six.
Thank you, Mr. Whelan. So I have some questions also. I just to bounce off of Mr. Whelan's question, I think you're calling these horizontal eyebrows extending out from the building also as awnings, correct?
Right, and maybe we could go to an elevation.
So it's above the bar and then on the corner going around Colorado, right?
Correct. So there's currently none above where the bar is. We'll be providing one for protection, element protection, and then we'll be replacing the awning that wraps the corner there.
Okay.
And extending it a little bit further than the existing one does, just to help kind of break up the massing of that elevation. Okay. Currently, there's that rock wall that is a privacy wall for the restrooms from when it was a service station. The restrooms were accessed from the exterior.
Yeah.
So that privacy wall will be removed, and that elevation just needed a little.
Okay. So I'm on the wrong sheet. Here we go. So when you say that the item 7 on this sheet is the planters are to remain on Calipalo, Colorado. Does that mean that landscaping that's there will remain, or the planter area and new planting be established?
The planter area will remain. We'll likely introduce new planting along this line. We were just actually discussing that with our landscape architect. The planting in the rear, that's these boxes, will probably remain as is. So at the time of submittal, this was going to remain its hedge. It's fairly mature, but we could probably replace it with something nicer.
Okay. Did you get a hurrah from Public Works or whoever, or transportation, on the location of your bike parking? It's quite away from the building, and where I think people would, this is a comment, moving into comment, but wouldn't people bike up to closer to the entry and feel secure that their bikes are closer to them?
That's a possibility. We didn't receive any negative comments about the bike parking location as proposed. I know a lot of times they want it to be visible from the street so that people are aware that there is a place for them to park their bicycles. So that's one pro to having it there.
All right. So as long as we're on the sheet, see, your item 5, I think, is your minimum 4-foot wide public pedestrian access to the street. It seems to narrow down at the street.
Yeah, it's wider in more places. So at the street, it's 48, potentially more inches wide, and it actually gets wider as it approaches the entryway. So
wouldn't you maintain that 48 and to the benefit of wider planters surrounding your patio?
Well, because it's a built-in planter box and we're restricted in the size of our patio due to parking and the calculation there, it was beneficial to have it a little bit wider. We could potentially make those planter boxes deeper.
Yes, okay, thanks. Then if we go to the elevations, your modeling is good.
Pages 7 and 8, or the renderings.
Yeah, so your 3D modeling is good. Can we go to one of the 3D modeling?
So
yeah,
pages 10 and 11.
Yeah, I don't understand why there is a height difference. I get, and I support the idea of this wraparound awning eyebrow or whatever, but why is there a different height between the right-hand side of the entry as it wraps around Colorado elevation and the other side of the entry, which is where your bar is? Why couldn't those all be in the same line and clean this baby up?
So there's an existing sloped roof, as this wall here is not in plane with this wall beyond. And so we just located this awning, at the edge of the roof so that it continues just waterproofing. We could potentially lower it to be kind of in the same line as this beam. I can study that.
Yeah, okay. And then
maybe if we go to the west elevation, we can see that better, the slope. You might not be able to see that.
No, I understand. So the clear story windows are even the uppermost ones in the uppermost gable. Are those clear glass also, or the?
Yeah, they're all clear. They're all existing clear glass.
And what do they look into? I understand.
Well,
I understand.
The ones above the entry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand the ones above and to the right of the entry look into a 2-story volume, but the ones way up in the
these ones.
Yeah, in the peak, yeah.
Yeah. So that's also a vaulted space. There is a mezzanine that is, if we look at the floor plan, maybe sheet 5, page 5.
To be short, will open into some.
The main dining space and bar area is what those.
So they will open
existing-
up into a volume. Okay.
Right, right.
Right. Okay. Very good. Yes. And
There we
then
go. We can see all of this is right now. Oh, go back, Bill.
yeah, I get it.
So this is actually proposed to be removed. This is the current mezzanine, and we're going to reduce it. And so all of this space that is X'd out is going to be open.
Okay, great. And then there is, and this is a very disciplined pitched roof. Have you anticipated where your grease fan and so forth are going to come up through the rooftop and so forth?
Sure. If we look at the existing site photos, there's already an exhaust fan for the current hood, and we're not looking to relocate any of that. We can rebuild the screening. We're also providing a new mechanical well at the new addition, and that will be a space that will be able to conceal any additional rooftop equipment, such as condensing units or AC units that are currently not screened.
Yeah, so there's,
here you can see that the lower image has a good shot of this existing screening around the hood exhaust.
Okay. So you're saying that if we go back to the modeling images, you're saying that this sloped, what are we calling it now? A shade structure? It will be flat, but your V-type columns are going to be going to remain?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, those are my questions. So,
follow up.
you have a comment? Yes, we have two more. Miss Anderson.
Yeah, can we go back to the site plan real quick? I was just curious if you guys studied any alternate parking options.
A lot. Yeah, we did. We studied several different options. This was the one that transportation actually liked the best. There are going to be a few modifications that we got some comments back from them, but they liked this one the best as far as the circulation, safety, and the number of parking spaces we were able to get on site.
And then the right behind the building, is that for maintenance or what is that area?
So it's basically going to be utilized as servicing the trash recycling that is located in the back corner of the lot, the back rear corner. And then also food deliveries can be made there so as not to interrupt the parking for patrons. Otherwise, it's not used space. The landscaping will conceal that as well.
Okay. Okay, those are my follow-up questions.
Mr. Whelan.
Yes, a follow-up question. Ms. Ballantyne, as the photographs display so well, there are a number of mechanical growths from the existing building. I'd like to know if all of those are going to be removed, or if not, which ones remain?
Yeah, my anticipation is that they'll all be removed. We'll have a new exhaust fan to replace the existing because we'll be installing a larger hood than what is there now. So the location of the fan will remain. The fan itself will be replaced. The other units are a condensing unit for their existing reach-in for beer, wine, sodas. That will be removed, as we'll have a new condensing unit for the walk-in cooler that will sit atop the walk-in cooler and concealed by the parapet wall. And then we need to still have a mechanical evaluation of the HVAC system. My guess is that we'll be replacing that as well, but we haven't confirmed.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I have a piggyback on Ms. Anderson's question. This configuration is a one-way. Will that be a strict one-way with some angry signs at the State Street entry?
We will have a do not enter sign at State Street.
Excuse me?
Yes, we will have a do not enter sign at the State Street driveway.
Okay. And yeah, okay, so we'll move to, most important. You mentioned that you need to go to a modification hearing officer. What, can you be more specific on that, and how can we help comment on those issues?
Right, so because we're in an overlay district, there is a 20-foot front setback in which parking is not allowed within without a modification. Bike parking, we were told, was already exempt from that mod, so it's really just for the parking that's within the first 20 feet, which is a few spaces along here. We think that we're good candidates because we're actually adding a lot of screening at the public right-of-way to help kind of conceal the parking, right? It was previously a service station in the big empty vacant lot. And due to the site constraints with the angled structure, et cetera, this is something that we feel is appropriate. I believe that the comments are more driven towards the aesthetic, and since we're providing, landscaping in conformance with the design standards, we think we are a good candidate for positive comments for the modification.
Okay, in preparing for that comment, there seems to be a lot of white space or pavement space to the left-hand side of number 8. And also, could number 8 be squared off at the head of the car? Parallel with State. Why are you not showing more landscape to the left of number 8?
Just to be clear, are we just talking about this area?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we completely agree. And this first iteration does not show landscaping there, but we recently met with our landscape architect on site, and this was one of the first areas that he highlighted as one for additional landscape. So the next plan will definitely have some more landscaping there. And if we're able to configure, we'd like to do more landscaping throughout the parking as well to help split up those spaces.
Okay.
That will be determined if we can, fit them all, but that location will be.
Do you also understand my comment on the head of at least, the head of at least parking space number 8 being parallel with State Street?
You mean in this direction?
Yes, right there.
Yeah, so there is, as we previously discussed, it's just not shown on this plan, a palm that sits right about there. So we want to make sure that we avoid it.
All righty. And then are you saying that you also need to address parking setback issues on parking lot number 2 and 3?
I think that our parking is more than 20 feet, and I'm not sure if this counts as a secondary front setback. That's something that we need to confirm with our planner. However, if a modification is required for the spots within 20 feet, I guess it would probably just be these, then that will be requested as well. So it would be, you know, modifications for the primary and secondary front setbacks.
Okay, very good, thank you. So we'll move to comments, and board members, I think that your comments should, you know, also address the rationale or the support or not support of modifications to these issues, to this parking in this 20-foot setback issue. Anybody want to start?
Sure.
Ms. Anderson, I think you're just barely had your hand up before Mr. William did.
Okay. Yeah, I can start. I don't think at this time I can comment on the support or not supporting the modification. I don't think there's enough information for that. As we don't have like an accurate existing site plan or survey, and then showing all the constraints for where the parking spots are located. I also think in that regard, there can be further study of reducing the pedestrian sidewalk to that 48 inches to allow for the possibility of pushing the parking spots away from the street front. And then, so for that part, I don't think I can comment. I do have some concern for the size of the addition, just because I'm not sure that's going to accommodate all of the required mechanical equipment that will be needed for both the restaurant and HVAC. I think flattening or not angling the sunshade structure is a good idea. Although I'm not sure the angled supports, although I saw it on one of the awnings, I'm not really sure how that integrates well with the building. Let's see, I think that they could study introducing maybe some landscape between the ADA parking spot and the pedestrian way. And then in regards to materials and color palette, I think there could be some further study on how the new paint color will interact with the existing stonework, since it's a little bit darker, and not sure the white is going to really interact well with that. And I think, yeah, I think those are my comments for now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Whelan.
Sure, I will reiterate Member Anderson's comments about not being fully aware of the 20-foot setback, but I would like to note that in this parking plan, this would require pedestrians to cross over the drive aisle to get to and from their car, which I think inherently is a less desirable solution. On that same site planning, I think this is a very poor location for bike parking, as it encourages bicycle traffic on the walkways where bikes should not be traveling. So while the bike parking is desirable to be seen from the street, it should be accessed from the street and driveways. That's my personal feeling about how bikes should be handled. As for the architectural design, I realized it was a gas station. It seems to be even more than a gas station, since it was 2 stories, whether or not that was original. There's, I think, an inherent 50s mid-century modernism about the underlying architecture that I would like to see the architects embrace. and be reflected in both the shade awning on the building and the shade trellis off the building, which they had started to do in some senses. But I would encourage the architects to very carefully study the sun movement so that that big trellis actually does do some shading good where they want it, because as it is now, over that certain number of seats, looks good in plan, but really the way the sun travels, that's not really going to shade those streets. And then back to my architectural character, has a number of very lovely stone walls that have been added to it. Some are being retained, some are being reiterated, such as the new fireplace. I would like to encourage them to embrace this stonework throughout to make it a cohesive design. I believe that's all of my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Whelan. Mr. Olson.
With no comments.
All right, very good. Well, my comments kind of align with the previous said. I don't know whether you're going directly to the staff hearing officer, but I really resonate with Mr. Whelan's comment. And I know you've been through several reiterations of this, but it seems like, you know, flipping the parking to have the stalls up against the other side would really make sense. So I don't know whether you show us a study of why that doesn't work or whatever, but I don't know if I can support in small comments to staff hearing officer about just simply with additional landscaping on this proposed general layout to support it. So I would recommend that it comes back with either examples of why it doesn't work as Mr. Whelan suggested, and get most of that or all of the parking outside of the setback. I don't know if I walked out to the site, and those trees are beautiful, heavy, gorgeous shade producing elements, and I just don't see the need for a shade structure, but I'm very much in support of leveling it off and perhaps restudying the posts and so forth. As on the architecture, as I commented, I think that leveling out and unifying the eyebrow wrapping around the building is a essential idea, and somehow handling that awkward front-facing first story shed roof to minimize that would be a great improvement. As I think whatever the configuration of parking, I think that the tired existing screening landscape hedge along Colorado Street, it needs to be entirely replaced and brought new healthy plants in. And I question, and I look forward, I question, I think Mr. Whelan is suggesting that we see more stone, and one of those areas that I'd really like to see it is in the front face of these planter boxes along the patio. Oh, and then, you know, I think there's a lot of thinking and study that needs to the next time we see this, about the rooftop equipment being that it's a pitched roof and, you know, no parapets and significant needs for screening, because I anticipate a lot of rooftop equipment directly above kitchen areas and so forth. So I would like to hear, before we make a motion, what the status of the project is and its pathway to staff hearing officer, whether the applicant would be willing, or staff suggests that it come back one more time for a restudy of the general layout of the parking. Is staff?
I would say you can continue the item, make comments regarding the aesthetic appropriateness of the mods, discuss your supportability of them. And then if the applicant wishes to come back with maybe a revised design, they can, or they can go off to the staff hearing officer to pursue that modification. So definitely.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Anderson.
Isn't this here for pre-application review?
And that's what I want to confirm, because I think Ms. Valentine, you might have misspoken, and I just want to double check on that, because you might have paid the full fees. And so if you would want it to be here for a one-time concept, you can go away and come back with a different design if you so desire. But let me look that up really quick.
Yeah, I think that we were scheduled for pre-application because our application has not been deemed complete. And so you had offered us the one-time fee, $400 design review, which we accepted so we could get comments.
Okay.
And just to further clarify that, that's not the case.
Okay.
So you paid for full ABR review. So this, you can go forward without receiving completeness determination just yet. And that's why no appealable decision will be made at this hearing. So it's up to your discretion. You would definitely need to get completeness before you go off to show. So you can come back. So
So I sense the consensus of the board is that we would need further convincing that modifications shown here are supportable without further study of alternate parking layouts. Is that not the case, kids?
That's correct.
All right.
And the absence of an existing site plan would support that.
Okay, very good.
I did want to add one comment. I do think they're headed in the right direction. I think it's an exciting project and it'll be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. So carry on.
Absolutely. I think that this building has been an eyesore for years, and look, very much encourage the applicant to see it improved. So I think we need a motion. Is anybody willing to generate a motion here?
I didn't think we needed one for a pre-application. Could we have a clarification from staff?
So just to formally clarify, this is not a pre-application. This is the first time concept review. Plans have not been deemed complete. So we do need a motion. And if you wish to address mod comments, you can. If not, you can request that they return.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Lauren, I think it's up to you and I, so I will take a stab at it. I will make a motion that the project return to the board and include an existing site plan, and that they examine alternatives for the parking layout that do not require a modification of the 20-foot setback, a relocation of the bike parking off the public walkway, a continued use of the existing stone facing on support walls. Let's see, what have I missed? Something about the trellis work?
Well, we understand that the trellis, well, the freestanding trellis, we understand to be horizontal.
Yes.
Now, do we want to comment on its support, its V-shaped support?
That may be in character with what I see as 50s mid-century modernism.
Okay.
A careful layout of the mechanical systems and their screening, and a landscape plan. Did I miss anything?
I'll second that. And under discussion, would you be okay to add to restudy the canopy eyebrows around the building to be more unified in their design, and especially their elevation to one another, height of one another?
Yes, that and their relationship to the freestanding canopy.
Okay. And then I think also to honor Ms. Anderson's comment about further study of, I'm sure that the modeling is not very color conscious, but we look forward to the sophisticated colors to harmonize the building. And do you want to mention something about your mid-century style?
Yeah, that would tie into the colors, that the colors relate to and bring out the attributes of mid-century modern design that underlie the existing structure.
Okay. Good. And if I might just on your first comment about the alternate parking configurations, I think instead of eliminate setback into the 20-foot, to say further minimize instead of eliminate.
Certainly, that's acceptable.
All right. So
can Ms. Ternescovaya reduce that to some salient comments in our motion?
Yes, I think so. So I have that the motion is to continue indefinitely with the following comments. Number 1, include an existing site plan. Number 2, examine alternatives for the parking layout that further minimize the modification with the 20-foot setback. Number 3, relocate the bike parking off the public walkway. Number 4, provide continued use of the existing stone facing on support walls. Number 5, provide a careful layout of mechanical systems and their screening. Number 6, provide a landscaping plan. Number 7, restudy the canopy eyebrows on the building to be more unified in design. and especially their relation to one another and the relationship to the freestanding canopy. And the last point I have is that the board looks forward to sophisticated colors that harmonize the building. The colors relate to and bring out the attribute of mid-century modern design that underline the existing structure.
Mr. Six, were you happy with number 2? I'm not sure that got exactly your point.
I think the further minimize, right? Yeah, I was very happy with that.
All right.
And I think that your last one should not just be only your mid-century modern, should not just be involved in colors. It should be a more general, the architecture should.
Yes.
So Mary, it would be a separate, you know, the colors more sophisticated, one comment, and then then another comment, the architecture and colors should be what were your silver-tongued comment, Mr. Real?
They bring out the attributes of mid-century modernism.
All right, very good.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Thank you.
All right, very good. So we have a
Miracle
motion.
worker.
We have a motion on the floor.
All right, so I can go ahead and take a roll call vote, and I'll start with Vice Chair Six.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks, and thank you, Ms. Valentine. I hope that helps. So with that, that's our last item on the agenda. And so we will close the ABR meeting for February 7th.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
That is unfortunately not the case. And I wish that she could have gotten those little squares off, but that is A-okay. Due to the staff's preemptive noticing of these 2 projects, we will have to open up these items.
Yes, I forgot. Okay, so
just to clarify, we need to open, sorry, Vice Chair Six, we need to open them up, vote on them for indefinite continuance.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Yes, I understand. So number 5 is 418 North Milpa Street. This is a pre-application review. A proposed pre-application project is for a new 4-story 90-unit mixed-use building with ground floor commercial space facing Milpas and a bed and breakfast hotel on Gutierrez. 90-unit residential space consists of 1 and 2 and studio units using the average unit size density AUD program and the state's bonus density law. Parking would be located on grade behind the street, fronting commercial uses and common residential amenity and hotel lobby spaces. This was, this is no appealable decision will be made at this meeting, and this project will be re-noticed when a new hearing is set. So this item has been postponed indefinitely due to staff's scheduling areas. So we will close this item until further notice. Does that do it?
So technically, we just need to take a motion for
All
that
right.
item. So if someone would like to second that.
So there's a motion to indefinitely postpone this project.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor.
All right, I'll start with Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
So item 6 is 425 Garden Street, a pre-application review. This project consists of demolition of all on-site structures and construction of a 4-story, 33 multifamily apartment complex with common rooftop amenities. It is consistent with the city's average unit density size and the city's inclusionary housing ordinance and the state's density bonus laws. The project is proposed at a density of 86.84 units per acre under state density bonus law. No appealable decision will be made at this hearing. This project will be renoticed when a new hearing date is set. Do I have a motion to postpone this item until further notice?
Yes.
Second,
Seconded by Olson, firsted by Mr. Wilson, Whelan. A vote is on the floor.
One of them.
All right, so I'll start with Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right. So with that, we are through with the business of the day, and we'll close the ABR of February 7th. Thank you, folks, and good night from beautiful
So much.
Santa Barbara.